But it came back a PSA 9. I sold it for $700.
Welcome back for the third time, Knox.
Oh, you thinking what I'm thinking?
Oh, that looks good.
Come on, man.
Can I get one?
Right on the board.
Go ahead, sis.
I'm not sure why you wanna have sex with me.
Very
He
Italian.
died and then he went to the
It was like stump somewhere.
Great life.
They should listen.
Yeah,
play ball.
It
could be yours. Just happy.
Fucking dope.
I think it's like 10,000 square feet, where we could literally go to 200 tables, and that's when it's going to get crazy. But dealers don't like it because there's more competition. They want less dealers, more money.
For sure, yeah.
So like if you guys were set up, at a like a vape show, you know, like you wouldn't want like a whole industry of vape companies because you're like, fuck, man, I want to stand out.
Right.
So these guys are the same way with cards, and then they're like, why do you keep adding tables? Because we got people on the wait list.
Yeah. In theory, though, more vendors means more people in general.
Yes.
Right?
You would think that. So a lot of people are like scared shitless of competition. They don't want it. They don't want it. They're just like, I want that money
to grow together in a lot of ways.
Well, and if you think about that, like for what you guys do, like honestly, you would think of how can I cooperate with other stores, like promote each other, help each other out. Like you may run out of shit that they have, and you kind of scratch each other's back. Like, hey man, can you send me some of this? Like I gotta, and that's how it works.
Business was better for us when we had more competition in town.
Yeah.
Now it's just like us and vape and juice, and there's, yeah.
Every time I drive by, I laugh at that. Folks. It's kind of funny. When I like vape juice, I think of
I think of how they thought of it, like, we're vaping juice.
It sounds like, to me, I don't know, I imagine a gorilla. Like imagine a big gorilla that like vape juice. You know, it just sounds corny, and I'm like,
That's funny because like the industry standard bottle brand is Chubby Gorilla.
Chubby gorilla.
Chubby Gorilla. Like I guarantee you.
I didn't even know that shit. That's what's funny.
Yeah, straight up. That's why I had to break. Like I guarantee you, even if I get like a little bottle of juice out of my bag over there, it's Chubby Gorilla.
Chubby gorilla. But yeah, it's weird. Like a lot of these guys get like super finicky about. And this is the thing, is like some guys will have way better shit than other people. Like I don't do any high end stuff. Like I think like the most expensive card I have in my collection right now is like $100 because I sell more stuff on the lower end. I don't care. Like I'll make 15.
Yeah, you want to cater to what's moving.
Yeah, and it's cheaper for people. Like like when kids come in, they're not looking to drop $1,000 to $1,500 in a card.
But
They're gonna look for
$20,
5, 10, 15, $20. I'm like, I'm your guy. I do this shit all day. So I'm the guy who's like, I'd rather make 40 transactions at, $4 or $5 a piece than one at 2,000.
Right.
So
because then they've got something to remember you by.
Yes.
You have a better chance for repeat business.
so it's more generating like
and it's
a
still you
customer
can
base.
still tap into high end sales and keep all that.
Yeah. So I'm more of a conductor, which sounds weird. Like if somebody comes in and they're like, hey, I'm looking for this shit. Like I know the people who have it, and then I'm like, go talk to so and so. Like they have that card you're looking for. And then like if somebody comes in and they're like, hey, I want to sell this card. I know who's got money and who's gonna buy. So I'm like, this is the person you're gonna want to talk to. So there's a lot of people who kind of like I said, when they come in, I just know where people are, and I'm just like, here. And if I don't have it, cool, I don't have it, right? I mean, I'm the guy who sells cheap shit. That's fine for me. Do I want to get into high-end shit? Absolutely. Because your profit margins are bigger. Like I was telling you, if I go to buy cards, let's just use like a Pokemon. I'm not even into Pokemon, but we'll just use Pokemon as an example. So like a Charizard PSA 10, the original Charizard PSA 10. At one point, they were going for like 500. One almost sold
recently, right?
Yes, one almost sold for $1 million.
That's fucking
Like
insane.
crazy money, crazy money for cardboard, right? So now this is in a pristine condition, perfectly graded out. So people take that. Like if I wanted that card, like again, I have to buy that card at a certain amount in order to make profit. I don't want to pay $500,000 to sell it for $500,000. That makes 0 sense. But if I make $100K off of it,
or even 50K,
yeah,
bro.
like I don't have to be
what
greedy.
What else are you gonna do tomorrow to make $50,000 fucking dollars?
Exactly.
You know? That's a lot
Like,
of money to make
and like that.
transaction.
But think about, like I was saying, like cheap stuff. Like I make $3-4, $10 here and there. So like it's not huge margins for me. I have to work harder to get it. Like if I could just drop in and be like, oh yeah, I just made $100K in like 2 hours. Like that's where those guys I was saying that have the buying power right now. Like they just put it in and it's instant flip. There's an 18-year-old in Madison, Wisconsin, who literally walked into our show with $20K in a pouch. 18 years old.
That's pretty good.
I was like, what? Like at 18 years old, like I was scrounging change to buy a pack of cigarettes for $1.89. Yeah. Like we gotta dig around and change things. Like he's wearing around $20K buying cards.
Is that how he got started, you know?
So his dad fronted him. His dad's a doctor. So I mean he was able to.
So he had a few bucks at first and then he turned it into more.
If somebody's like financially backing you, like you could do dangerous shit in this industry. Like stupid, crazy. You guys are probably a little bit more familiar with like shoe game. Like, are you guys familiar with sneakers?
A little bit.
Like Yeezys and shit like that?
I don't know market specifics, but I do know there's a big market for it.
So there's a lot of like shoe collectors, and even when you like if you get into like crypto, like even there's some crypto stuff where people know like, okay, here's where you want to buy. You want to buy it here, and then it's going to go up, and then we're going to flip it. So cards are essentially the same mass bullshit. It's just
artificial factors that will increase a certain card's value at a certain time for not a very long time. So it's
stock market type shit.
Yeah, wow,
it's so like
that makes it trickier. Yeah.
What's harder though is like, let's say Marco's a professional soccer player or a football player. He has 2 bad games in a row. His cards are going to start to go down. Like the stock market, they're like, oh, that company, this card, Marco, goes down. Marco has another good game, and now the cards go back up. So there's markets that literally like fluctuate.
Oh.
It's stupid, insane, but
based off of player performance.
Yes.
Like.
Yep. Or trades to a team. If so, like Lionel Messi, a soccer player, changed teams this year. And it was like a big deal. He's like, he's like the greatest soccer player in the world.
Yeah, I even know who Messi is.
Yeah. So when he switched teams, people were like, oh shit, like he's gonna go to this team, and that team's gonna be way better, and they're gonna win a World Cup, and they're gonna do all these things. So his cards went up, and then it was like a month, and then cards started just slowly tailoring back down because they were just playing soccer. There's no World Cup in sight. There's no goals in sight that he's like breaking records at this point. He's just like, okay, now it's like, it's literally like cliffhanger on Price is Right, where it's like, you know, the yo, and then you get to the top and it's like, you'll see shit plummet. So 2 years ago, should we save this for like the show?
We're rolling. Yeah, we'll do it.
I was gonna
properly. I feel like
you guys, but
we'll do a
you
intro.
guys we're already there.
Okay, go ahead.
What up, people?
Everybody.
Mr. John today, the card trader.
John has traveled far and wide to be here. Welcome to the
street.
Sham Show.
Across the street, the crazy neighbor guy.
We were just going in already, so you get some juice right out the gate.
So I'll kind of like
Yeah,
formally introduce what I do.
Yeah.
So I've been into card collecting since I was probably 7 years old. 2015, I jumped out. You know, you hit a point in adulthood where you're like, okay, it's not something that's there. And then 2018, cards just went nuts. And prices started skyrocketing, investing started happening.
So pre-pandemic even.
Yeah, right before the pandemic, and I think the pandemic actually like boosted, like it gave it like a shot of steroids and just went nuts.
I thought it was the pandemic itself that got it going, but it was going before that.
Yeah, right before. So it got kind of crazy. A lot of people were just, they were throwing free money at stuff. You know, the stimulus money was out there, and people were like, "Hey, how can I invest?" And that just seemed like
what most people wanted to do.
People got into hobbies. They were sitting at home.
Yeah, they found shit at home, shit that they could do.
Right, clean out the house, the attic.
Yeah, and so what I ended up doing, I actually started getting back into the hobby like early 2019. Was buying stuff, just collecting, making a couple sales here and there on eBay. And then a buddy of mine, we had talked, I got into a card show. So I set up as a vendor, and I was trying to get into other shows. And then at that time, there was like nothing. Like you couldn't get in anywhere. All these people were full. They never had availability. So him and I talked, and I said, you know what? I said, there's nothing going on here. Let's start our own show. Let's just throw it together and see what happens.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario.
You saw the market opportunity.
Was there nothing in the county or the Rockford area?
So there's a show at Cherryvale Mall. It's kind of like
Actually, I have seen that.
it's kind of like plopped into a craft show.
Yeah.
So it's not really I don't want to be offensive. It's a card show, but it's not really a card show.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like a card show mashed in with some other
Yeah.
fancy type stuff.
So if you want burial plots and like friendship bracelets, and then you want a card, like you could do all those in one sitting.
One-stop shop.
So yeah, it's kind of. I mean, hey, it is what it is. But
And that was yearly or?
so they do it monthly, and then we run our show, the Northern Illinois Card Show, month to month. So we just got together, and we were like, hey, let's put together the show. How do we do that? So we had to go out. We had to try to like recruit other vendors, people who do what we do. They set up at shows, they sell cards. It was one hell of a
But it was a
trial
little
and error.
tough to like find it.
Oh, it was like just trying to find people to believe that you had a show that was going to be worthwhile setting up at.
Right.
Yeah.
So most people are like, do you have crowds? Where is it at? Is the location consumer friendly?
Right, and that's probably why you see stuff like at the mall where it's like, all right, we know there's going to be a crowd here, so you guys can tap in.
Well, I mean,
But it's super dope to do, the specialization aspect. I totally understand why you want to go to specifically a trading card show,
So it was kind of, trying to get people in was the hardest thing. So we were new. We were at Forest Hills Lodge originally, and then we transitioned over to Rock Church now, which is like right next to the mall, which kind of irritates them because we're on the same day, and so they can't
Same
stand
day?
Yeah.
Why did you pick the same day?
Well, it wasn't our opportunity. So there's other card shows that we really had to work around for weekends.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, there's a big card show in Milwaukee the first weekend of the month. And then the third weekend of the month, there's another show. There's a show in Woodstock. There's a show in Wisconsin by Lake Geneva. And then the fourth week was the Madison card show. So we were like, okay, well, we got the second weekend. That's really our focus, where we're not battling against other shows. How can we get the most dealers, and how can we do all these things? And plus, you had to work it out with your location. So we were trying to do all of that, and then like trying to dance around everybody's feelings was like,
Oh God, you're never gonna win entirely.
I'm the worst person on the planet for doing what I did and picking the weekend. By the way. So, and I think it's because we're less than a mile apart. And that doesn't help anything. So we originally set up, the very first show we did was in May, and I think 47 tables.
Wow.
So that was at Forest Hills?
Yeah.
That's
that
a
was
good debut.
So we were like, hey, cool.
And on there, that's like 47 independent vendors then?
Yep. Well,
Maybe a
Yeah,
couple had like 2 tables or something.
yeah. So there was
Still.
probably 22, maybe
Okay.
22 people that set up.
That's fucking dope, dude.
The crowd was pretty good for the first time. We were actually pretty shocked. So I know a lot of people from just my years of doing it, and being in the hobby. So it kind of helped out. Like, hey, I'm just going to share it on Facebook, word of mouth. Let's get it out there. We didn't know shit about like advertising and any of that stuff in the algorithm. We know nothing about it. So, the second show we did. So we did it again at Forest Hills. This was in June.
Did you throw a few bucks on like promoting it at all?
No, not originally.
No money at all?
Nope.
Cool.
So we just did word of mouth by who we know, spread it out.
That is a bang up start, 47 tables for just word
Yeah,
of mouth.
that's
The
how
first
you-
one was great.
Seeing something like that would be an eye opener to me, where it's like, oh,
Yeah,
we got a market here.
we had a big crowd the first show. The second show, the crowd was down a little bit. It wasn't bad, but we ended up going over 2 rooms instead of 1. And then we ended up having 55 tables the second show. And that's when we knew we were like, shit, we're onto something. Like,
Yeah,
we're growing.
If
We
you're
got growing.
growing, and you might get your good ones and bad ones for whatever different reasons. Of course, that's just business, so.
So
But if you're growing in general, that's
yeah.
sweet.
And the crazy thing is, like, we had people, like competitors, who were like, oh, this show isn't that good, and there wasn't as many tables as you said there was, and we were like, You guys literally went through and counted every single table. Did you count every guest? You know, like, and when you expand over 2 rooms, like we're talking 6,000 square feet, and you look at the whole center of the room was empty, so we had a square inside a square. That was our layout for the second show. Over 2 rooms, it looked empty because the whole center was empty. But it was almost the same crowd size, but we had more vendors, we had this almost similar crowd size, and like there's no way you sat here at our door and counted every single person who came in. Like it was good. So we were like, okay, we're onto something, what do we do? So we knew we had to leave the Forest Hills location at that point. They were starting to price us out. We were only on Sundays with football coming up. We were like, can't be on Sundays.
Right.
Because nobody's gonna be there's gonna be a ghost town. So we're like, gotta find a location on Saturdays. Ended up getting into the church. Works out great. They got a big gymnasium. We went from 50, I think it was 55 tables. We went up to 65. We did 65 for a couple months, and then we just went up to 71 back-to-back shows. And I actually have a waiting list of like 40 people. So we could probably do 115, 125 tables today. Like if I had the space to do it, I could probably fill that today.
Wow.
Which is crazy. So do you think from May to now, the girls span, the November show, we had estimated that there was 500 people in the room at one time. And it was continuous from 9 to 3 p.m. all day.
I see a picture and the shit is packed.
Yeah, it got to, I started to get a little bit worried because I was like, I don't know what the health code is as far as like spacing.
Yeah, people that can
It's like
Max capacity.
That's a good problem to have.
It was a lot of people. So again, and people laugh about cards. Like you think of it
It's
as like
wacky, dude. But you can laugh about any of these new like crypto you were saying. Like,
Yeah.
It's all wacky shit.
a lot of people laugh at this stuff, so they think it's childish. But here's the thing: like almost anything that you played with as a child, believe it or not, is a collectible now.
Yeah,
It's worth
straight the
money.
fuck up.
It's worth
It's
money.
probably worth more than what your parents paid for it.
Yeah.
You know.
Think about like what was like your toy when you were a kid that you just vividly had to have or remember.
Like Power Rangers shit.
Okay,
Like.
We did some Pokemon.
Pokemon, like Power
Yeah.
Ranger stuff. So like there's people that like once you start getting into a certain age gap and you start making certain money, like people gravitate to things they used to have. They think of, oh, I had that, I want to have it again. Or I wasn't able to afford the one that was too expensive then.
Yeah.
I
That's
want
true.
it now that I can. And so people start dumping crazy stupid money into stuff.
Especially when I think the affluent population, like you said, that's a lot of what they refer to.
What really helps out too, and if you think about this, is like certain people have to have certain things. And it's kind of like, I'm going to stunt on people. I have Michael Jordan rookie,
Yeah.
Like that's the thing is like, we were talking about sneakers. A lot of people buy those sneakers to put on a shelf just to show off.
Straight the
It's
fuck
about
up.
status.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is like people do the same thing at card collecting and investing. Like I
I'm
said,
sure.
that Charizard card, which I could care literally nothing about, $500,000.
I'm just picturing some dude with a dope ass mansion and then like a big marble room with this Charizard card in the middle of it under glass.
No joke.
Empty
And
room.
like 2 security guards.
Yeah,
Just guarded all the time, yeah.
All
Just-
black fucking
Full lasers.
AR-15s and lasers and
It's
shit.
a 4x3
and he comes in
card.
there once a week and goes, this is cool.
Yeah, and just
And then
leaves.
puts it
Yeah. He just looks at it and goes,
Or
cool,
like-
you're still here. I'm out.
Sometimes brings one really nerdy friend over, like,
Yeah.
Geeks on it.
Yeah, and he probably does. He probably has a party.
Probably straight the fuck up.
And he's going to show some chicks, look, I got a $500,000
I mean, that's honestly
Pokemon card.
badass as fuck.
And it's-
like,
and then he's-
That's how he bags them.
It's
Yeah.
funny, but I
Smash
respect
it.
if some dude was literally doing that, I would have mad respect for that. I'd be like,
Hey.
man, you guys can afford this lifestyle, dude. This is nice.
That's his play, though. He's gonna show off that $500,000 Charizard to some chicks, and he smash it. Yeah, that's what happened.
Guaranteed,
It's
dude.
stupid, but like there's
You bust out that first edition Charizard, I don't even care. I don't even care.
So there's like multiple different levels to like cards. So obviously you have like non-trading cards, which is like your non-sports, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic the Gathering,
Sure.
There's a bunch of different sets, and like people pay tons of money for these things because, again, it gravitates to when I was a kid. I never had that card. I want that card.
And it extends into other measures of pop culture too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where people that are like my age, like you said, we grew up watching Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh and stuff, or even like Star Wars, for
Mm-hmm.
like a little bit of an older gen. And that's kind of the same thing, I think a lot of people could dismiss that as being childish, but you're into what you're into, man.
All I'm saying is that dude can show up with that $500,000 Charizard at anywhere,
Yeah.
and it's worth $500,000.
Straight up.
And like, at the time they had the cards, a decade ago, pretty much worthless maybe, and then overnight, over time, they're worth something.
So the same thing happened. So my generation we were big into cards, like baseball cards, football cards, but then we also had like He-Man and G.I. Joe, and even some Star Wars figures at that time. Because I think '87 was a year they did a big print run of like Star Wars action figures and stuff. But like all that stuff started like people were like, oh, I never had that, I want to buy that. And then you see like, I don't know if you ever watch these corny shows on like History Channel or something where they like pick up like yard art and like people are like, oh,
American Pickers.
yeah, they're like, I want to pay $500 for that sign that's obliterated, but it has an oil can on it or something. And you're like, why are people paying that money? But then people go, why are they paying $500,000 for a Pokemon card? It's the same logic.
Art,
it's what people want.
It's
Crazy. You get to a certain point, like I said, you get to a certain point in life where you're like, here's the things that I loved as a kid, and I want to own them as an adult, but I want to do it bigger, grander, flashy.
I need a real life Charizard, bro.
We get one of those.
I'll pay $500 for a real life Charizard, dude. If I could ride it around and shit.
Believe it or
that'd
not,
be
so they
amazing.
have these huge conventions for like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, that stuff. They have huge conventions for it. We were just up in Madison, and they had this thing called, I think it was like Collecticon or something like that. But it was like based on like Pokemon itself. They had, I want to say the girl who stayed in our hotel said that they had over 10,000 visitors like in one morning, like going to this arena in Madison, Wisconsin, and we were like, what? And she's like, yeah. She's like, everybody's collecting. Like, I see your Pikachu thing here on the couch, and it makes me laugh. So like, people are going around and they're buying stuff like this. They're buying action figures. They're buying costumes. I mean, it was like an anime type thing where like everybody went, they dressed up, they bought stuff. They were talking like record number spending, like in a time where, like, if you think about it, we're talking about inflation being at an all-time high. You know, people are like, how am I going to pay for gas at $3.50 a gallon?
People losing jobs.
But yet you're going to Collecticon to buy Pokemon stuffed animals and stuff. That's what, and it's like, what is going on?
What is anything?
So, are you doing memorabilia as well, or is it just cards?
So memorabilia is tough. There's a big market for memorabilia. It's
What do you mean exactly memorabilia?
Like
So, like,
jerseys.
jerseys,
okay.
signed, like autographed photos, stuff like that.
Gear
game
vendors.
use. Yeah,
Okay. I feel ya.
we have a couple vendors who do stuff with. So one of the things that happens in sports cards is they try to like offshoot, and there's like multiple different things that you can do from offshooting from cards. So they do box breaks. So they have like hobby boxes or retail boxes, and some of them cost like tons of money. What people will do is, instead of one person spending $300 on a box, they get 30 people to go in on that, and they split the teams up. Everybody gets a piece of that box. They do that.
I remember you showing me videos of that, and it's
Yeah.
like huge on YouTube.
Yeah,
like the live streams.
It's pretty nuts. And some of them are open in like huge high-end boxes, like in cases. And so, somebody, instead of saying, hey, I'm going to go spend $10,000 to open up a case of cards, I'm going to split that with X number of people, and then I get something out of it, which is kind of cool. But it's a form of gambling, huge gamble.
Mhm.
Obviously, if I'm going to buy something in those cards, in those boxes, like, I don't know what I'm getting. It could be absolute dog shit, or you could hit a card that's worth 10x. I mean, it's just unknown.
You were saying the other day you were at the store and bought Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon cards on a whim. Came up on something.
I got it. So I was actually, this was probably about a year ago. I was waiting, the stores, so when they were dropping retail products for sports cards, like people were just wiping off the shelves. Like nothing stood on the shelf. It was gone.
Wow.
Like that's the demand that there was.
It was like ammo.
Yeah.
Following the dude around.
Yeah, like literally they were following the vendor around, and there was some people who were putting trackers on vehicles. Like it got nuts. Like no joke. There was hundreds and thousands of dollars that were made. So I was buying some boxes for like, let's say $25. I was selling them for $150. Like that was the flip, right? So
You were like buying them at the store?
yeah, $25 they were selling for $150 online.
Not opening them or anything. Just
Nope.
Here's this box.
Just selling them. And like people were paying it. And that's where we were like, okay, like this is crazy. So people were literally going and like we were sitting at Meijer for hours. Like literally
Just waiting for them to drop. The
waiting for them to
fucking
show
cards.
up. Yep.
Dude, we were doing a similar type of thing, waiting on graphics cards. It's crazy how some of the markets got to that.
They've been in
point.
short demand. They were like robbing the trucks,
Yeah.
trying to track
Oh.
the trucks.
That sounds very similar.
Having lines out the door
Yeah.
at this place called Micro Center where they resell them, on the chance that this truck might show up. And I don't mean
Yeah.
like 3 people, dude. I'm talking like 20, 30 people.
They
It
were
was fucking insanity.
They were waiting. So they had lines. This is what's crazy, right? So they had lines. We would like hang out. Like we got to make like good friends with a lot of people, just hanging out every night, waiting for the sports car guy to show up.
Straight up, dude.
And we were just hanging out, talking cards, talking what we do.
That's what
We're
I
like,
see
oh,
being
cool.
cool about that is that community. And
My wife
when
didn't
you-
like it, but we're talking hours a week. Hours.
She has no
I mean,
interest in the shit. She's like,
There was in some weekends where we were literally at Meijer for like 12 to 16 hours a weekend, like sitting there waiting, and that's what you did, right? But again, the payoff was like if I bought 10 boxes.
Box,
Well, if I
dude.
bought
mean,
10
come
boxes
on.
at 25, and then I'm turning around and I'm making,
$12.50 right there.
I mean, it was an easy flip.
yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'll waste my time. It's if it's worth
It's
it.
not a waste like that.
Was it tempting to
But-
break the boxes yourself?
I ripped a bunch of them.
Yeah.
I'm like a crackhead. I just get it, rip it open. But that's what ended up happening was I was at Target and I had just missed the guy. I was pissed off. I'm looking at the shelf and I'm like, what in the hell am I gonna buy? Because I want to open something. And this guy was like, hey, why don't you try this Yu-Gi-Oh pack? And I was like, I don't know what this shit is. I have no idea. And he's like, just open it up. I'm like, okay, so I bought it, took it home, and I ended up getting the best card you could get in the pack. Didn't know what the hell I was doing. Looked up the card. If I would have sold it like in the condition I had it at my house, I would have sold it for like $300.
It cost you 10.
$10 for the pack. So I was like, oh, this is cool. My buddy told me, he's like, hey, if you had it graded, so they have these grading services where like they grade the card 1 through 10. 10 being the best grade you could possibly get. So he's like, if you get a 10, that card's like $6,000. And I was like, holy shit. Like out of a $10 pack. So I'm like,
And what's the grading service cost? Like $100?
well, that's the thing is it used to be $10. Some of them were, $20, $30. Depends on how quickly you wanted them returned. So when everything went nuts in 2018, 2019, they got backlogged. There was 3 different companies that got swamped. And so it set everything back. I luckily got that card back. I paid for a fast service at that time was $75. I got it back in 3 months. But it came back a PSA 9. I sold it for $700.
So you made an extra $100.
Well, it would have been
$75 added cost, but it added.
So I was into the card total for
$400 value.
was in the card total for $85, not including my gas and I guess my
Right.
getting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Round
But-
to 90.
But I
Actual
ended up,
product cost.
yeah. So I mean that's where
$85.
Why didn't you get a 10 on that if it was on
And
pack?
3 months.
it just depends. Like they're very finicky with like how they grade. So some of them are like super harder than others, like other companies. Some of them were just like, hey, like if it looks good eye appeal, they're like that's a 10.
Yeah. So why did it come back as a 9?
Don't know. They don't give you any explanation, which is so irritating. Because you're
Yeah.
like, why didn't I get it?
Yeah, because you made $5,000 less.
Right.
On that, like,
Yeah.
shit.
Trust me, when I got
Yeah, and who's doing this grading, and how can we butter that biscuit?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So they're
Like,
out in
I'll go make
California,
sure-
and I wish I knew. So what's crazy is they send you a notification that tells you, and it says exactly what the grade is. So like, you know, okay, this card's going to come in the mail. Most people will wait for them to come in the mail and do like a blind reveal so they don't get upset. I'm like, I don't care. I'm just going to go look at the grade and see what it is before they send it to me. And as soon as I saw PSA 9, I was like, they're talking thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
I was literally like,
Yeah,
I
almost
was already
an extra 5.
I was planning like 4 months ahead of what I was already buying and flipping again. Like I was like, I'm going to take X amount of this $6,000 and put it back in and invest it and flip. And I was so upset when that came back at 9, and I was like, oh my God. And that's the first thing I thought was, how do I find out what happened? Like, why did it grade that way? And then who do I need to get a hold of to fix this?
Could you have sent it to another company then?
You can, but like there's a value in
like
different companies.
A database, and you know, if they get it graded, they're gonna look at somebody else's grade, and I bet if they see a 9, they're like, oh.
So what do you have to?
We can't say it's a 10. We're gonna look.
What you have to do is crack them open. So they come in like a plastic cellophane case. They're rigid. I mean, they're hard. They're protected cases, but you can crack them open. You just pry the card out and you resend it to another company. I mean, there's a lot of people who were buying like the lower end company stuff. So there's like different tiers to who the grading companies are. But a lot of people were buying like lower grade companies, cracking open the cases and then sending them to the highest company. And they were making money doing that. So some of them were like, so there's a company called SGC who's reputable. They're like the third most reputable company. A lot of people were sending cards to them and they would get them back in a grade. And if they came back a 9 or a 10, they were like, okay, now I'm going to send them to PSA, which is the biggest company. And they were like, if this card comes back a 10 on a PSA, some of them, yeah, they were just making tons of money. We were at the national convention and
is that like part? I'm still mulling over what could have possibly devalued it. Either like on manufacturers in perfection, or
so they do like a centering.
Even with
they do centering. They do surface. So if it has any surface scratches, believe it or not, like
yeah, so they're like looking at microns on shit.
They blow stuff up and look at it in like I think it might be like 100x magnification. So it's like if one of these machines that prints these cards,
or like in shipment.
So like when you open these cards, are you like doing it with like a micro precision robot scalpel or something? Like trying to be super careful? Like
it's hard. So like there's so much human element into the grading process. Like even from you packaging and shipping your card to them.
Right.
Like it freaked me out. Like,
absolutely.
Like when I'm putting this,
put that shit in like a case and another case and another. Like
you would shit yourself at how bad I mummy wrapped this one card because I was like $6,000, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, nothing can happen to this card. Like this is like a big deal. So like you get it, like when you're handling it, you got to put it into a certain type of sleeve, put it into another protective sleeve, and then you almost got to box it, wrap it, box it again, wrap it. Like I had this thing in a box that was like this big. The card's 4x3. I mean, I mummy wrapped this damn thing like so secure, and then you send it off.
In a goddamn Brinks truck.
Yeah, and you're thinking to yourself, you're like, man, between here and California, right?
How many dumbass motherfuckers
handles
are gonna
this?
be molesting this package
And you don't-
its whole journey?
How many times have you got a package shipped to you and like the corner smashed, or
yeah.
you know, and you're like, that's all I kept thinking about was, oh my God, this card's gonna be jank. So they get it there, and then that person has to take it out of that package. They have to undo it, and then they have to pull it out to review it. And then that's where you're like, okay, there's so much human element that could happen.
It's a lot of hands.
Right. And so in some cases, a lot of these companies, they're just like, they get it. They're fair about shit. They're not like super hardcore, but then there's a lot of them. So a lot of them now use AI. So now it's actual like computer grading where they scan the card. That image is scanned through a computer. They can find imperfections. They can tell if a card is trimmed. Like if somebody like tried to make it centered better, that happens a lot.
Is counterfeit cards a thing?
Tons. So the Michael Jordan rookie is the biggest, most counterfeited card like on the planet. And back in like the mid 90s, people were selling those cards and like nobody knew the technology to like actually review what a real Michael Jordan was. So people were paying tons of money. Like the Asian market that was coming over for Pokemon, same way. So people were getting these huge Pokemon cards, and then like 3 months later, the foil on the outside of the card started peeling, and people were like, "Wait a minute, I just paid $1,000 for this card, and now it's peeling. What the hell is going on?" 100% fake. There's a ton of forgeries.
Is there any good forgeries that will pass a grade?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That you can send to the grading companies and it'll fool them?
They still make mistakes. It's hard. Like, it's legit hard. So there's a big thing now, like we were talking about memorabilia, is a big thing now is called auto pen. I don't know if you've ever seen this. So they do autographs. That's the AI. It's a machine that actually recognizes your autograph, and they have a robot that handhelds a pen. And they can perfectly forge your autograph. Mm. So now they have this whole big deal with how many of these cards or photos or jerseys are signed with an auto pen, and they're not by an actual player or an artist.
How are you ever going to tell?
It's so they can tell, I guess, by how perfect they are.
Right, but if I had one of those machines, I'd make it slightly, I would program it so it wasn't like an exact, If you're taking this, signature that is a legit signature and you're having your machine do it, if I was the guy doing that, I would make it slightly different every time. You know what I mean? There's got to be some variation.
Yeah, I think you have to change it up. That's the thing is, like, you can go out and you can look. Like, you can take any person, for example. Doesn't matter who it is. When somebody sits down and they sign something, and they sign it in multiples, it's never the same.
Fuck no.
It's never the same.
Right.
And you'll get to, like, maybe the first 10 look pretty good, and then people are like, I don't want to be here anymore. And they just start, like, winging. Like, you could totally tell. So they pulled, a guy did a study of, like, these one particular football player. They pulled the cards. Like, every single autograph that they did out of, like, a 100 specimen or something like that, every one of them was dead nuts the same. There's no way.
Yeah.
And that guy signs 30,000 autographs a year. 30,000 autographs into one product, and then every card looks the same. Yeah. Like, there's no way he's like, I want to sit in a hotel room and sign autographs all day, right? Yeah. Hook up the auto pen. So he pays for an AI machine to sit there and sign for him. They don't have time to do that shit. And so now the big thing is, like, what's the authenticity of an autograph?
Right.
Is it really an autograph, or is it?
We've talked about that just for signing, like, bank documents and shit, or anything. That, like, that's a pretty flawed system. Why are we still doing this?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's pretty easy to forward.
That's why anytime I sign something, I just damn near scribble it.
Well, pretty soon it's going to be all electronic signing anyway.
It should.
Yeah.
It's fucking silly.
But I don't know what they're going to do. Like, in terms of, like, memorabilia or cards, like card market, like, what impact does that have? I mean, are people just going to be like, oh, hey, I got this, whoever auto, Michael Jackson.
The authenticity factor made me think about, like, you mentioned it earlier, I'm a really big crypto fan, and I'm interested in smart contracts, and then NFTs, and maybe that, because I'm not a big NFTs fan, like, I think it's really cool, but I'm not like, yeah, I'm gonna go spend crazy money on this shit. But maybe there is something there with, like, keeping it.
The NFTs would keep it honest.
Right, that's exactly the whole point of a blockchain, is having that
verification,
that ledger, that backing, that certainty to authenticity.
So the wild thing about NFTs, and I'm just in terms of sports cards.
Yeah. Let's translate. How's that working through? I know it's pretty big on FTX.
Yeah, I can't.
Well, it seems to be.
I can't understand it because it's not what I grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
Right, everything that we had was like in hand. Shit. You own it.
Nobody grew up with this shit.
It's like trying to understand the internet when it first came out. Like,
yeah. So it's wild. So on the NFT side for sports cards, it's strange because anybody can digitally make a photo that's considered a sports card. They do it. Topps does it. Panini does it. There's a bunch of different companies that have NFTs. NBA Top Shot is a big one. They do actual, like, NFTs of, like, the video reels. So they'll do, like, a basketball player who is a rookie, and they have a video of him passing his first pass. Sell for like $6,000, and somebody just wants that video, That's where I don't understand.
That's where I think that's kind of the overlap of the value system that I was kind of getting at. I think that's really fucking cool.
To me, it's like hard to understand though.
Yeah, where it gets
Very
weird
hard
is
to
that
understand.
you can still
Technologically, absolutely.
Where it gets weird is you can still Google that clip and find it.
Yeah.
And has access
absolutely.
to it. So why do you want that?
Well,
just
you don't have ownership
here's,
Right.
well, here's why you would want it though. The NFT verifies that it will remain the same video, so you know that you're not seeing
It's not
something that
altered
was
or
micro adjusted. And that might be important depending on what you even are doing with that video. Maybe you need it for video layering. Who knows, man? That just opens up a lot of.
I don't know if they
lot
literally.
more. That makes me value an NFT more because the certainty of authenticity.
Yeah,
is what I'm saying.
I understand that point.
Authenticity is priceless. You
Yeah.
know, you're talking about $1 million phonies over here. Like, fuck that shit. How much does it take to really keep shit authentic?
I will tell you.
Maybe that is the value factor that I've previously dismissed.
I'm not an NFT fan at all, just because I'm like my whole thing was like in my hand.
Absolutely.
I want
Totally
to
feeling
100%
that.
possess it. I don't want it to be a.
And that, in my opinion, won't ever go away or be significantly diminished.
What was it? The $500,000 yacht?
Yeah, it was like 650,000 virtual yacht.
I don't understand that. Like if I'm gonna pay for a yacht, I want a yacht.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't want a video of a yacht. I want a yacht.
Yeah.
So like.
It's a hard concept.
That's where he said for me.
Yeah, that's where the metaverse I'm not really
Yeah.
sold on yet, but I think with the non-fungible token authenticity factor is really fun.
Yeah, this is what we have to learn though, right? I think
I
that's the
agree.
future going forward is guys like me and sports cards are going to have a hard time adjusting to new modern technology. And so we're going to become the guys who try to keep cardboard alive.
Yeah.
We're going to keep pushing cardboard, keep pushing the value to cardboard.
And that's cool. Like,
Well,
I'm not even as progressive as I like to be with the crypto stuff, or I think that it has the potential to be, like, that's still cool.
Well, and even for your case, if they're going to do both.
Yeah, straight the fuck up.
And if it works
more
for
options, more better.
If it works for you and you understand that and you're like, here's why I like that. Cool. They're going to offer, you're going to have a product. For me, that's where I'm like, I can't get under it because I can't understand it. And I'm like, it just messes with me. Somebody just sold a card. Like I said, literally, it's like anybody can go on Photoshop and say, here's a card of, or a facsimile of this player. And this is what I think it is. It's a one-of-one production. I think it's worth $200,000. Somebody can come along and say, I want that. I don't want that shit.
Yeah.
It's a virtual photo.
So with the NFT cards, are some of them completely virtually created and some are like pictures of an actual card, or are they all just virtual?
So it's virtual. You can do it's almost like a stored photo. It's just a file. That's all it is.
And you're saying the sports card companies are coming out with them themselves? That's
Yep.
who's
So they do a blockchain. They do a lot of blockchain. Again, a lot of this stuff I'm like so far removed from.
Yeah.
It's super hard. And like for a guy like Curtis who likes NFT.
I think it's cool. I don't possess any, to be honest.
But here's what
I'm interested in it for technological purposes.
If you can, I will advise you to invest. Like I'm not investing for me because not my bag.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely not my bag.
There's an ass ton of money in it.
Yeah. So a lot of these guys were buying these packs from NBA Top Shot. They were getting them for like $100. Some of those cards that are the videos that we're getting them were selling for like close to like $10,000.
Here's some FTX stuff. Like, pretty reasonable. Like,
Yeah, so those are not actual cards; those are completely digital
Yeah.
renderings.
this is a $25 card.
Now,
That's kind of cool.
What will really mess with your mind is they were actually doing grading services for
And you can
NFTs. I'm dead serious.
Oh,
Listen,
really?
Yes. But people would pay that. I'm not kidding you.
How could it be fucked up?
Because
Like,
people
how would they not all be 10s?
people are that's why I said people will pay for anything. People will pay for anything.
To prove anything.
So this is where
The money that people pay to prove things. I mean, look at our legal system. I mean, I don't need to say nothing more, but
yeah.
it's beyond that.
Sports cards, though, like overall, authenticity is huge. The big thing is a lot of your grading companies, when you have a card authenticated and you have it graded, it's authentic. It doesn't change. That card will forever be, as long as it stays within that holder, it's authenticated. It's real.
Right.
You could get people. So back in like the 60s, 50s, and 60s, when kids didn't have the stuff they have today to protect cards, they kept them in like a shoebox with rubber band around them. They would take scissors and like trim around the edges and clean them up. So if you find some of these cards now, and people are like, "Oh, that card's jacked up." No, you got to think about the time frame that came from. How were they handled? They didn't have the shit we have today. So again, when they send them in and they have them graded, they're number one, they're authenticated, they're real. They're trimmed or they're altered, which is fine, that's normal. And people are like, "Hey, I just want to know that they're authentic," like you were saying. And then they're investing them. There's guys that buy stuff all the time. A buddy of mine just picked up I can't remember if it was a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or something. The card was trimmed, obviously somebody cleaned up the edges. And he sent it in for grading. It came back and it said altered, but it's put into a holder. Everybody knows it's authentic. He sold the card for way more than what he bought it for regular. Because once people know they have that peace of mind, they're going to spend the money. He bought it for like $100, sold it for $300. Once they confirm it's authentic, and people are like, "All right."
Yeah, and then you can put it in play, and that's what's
it creates a
cool
value
about the community aspect
Mhm.
and being able
How much
to
does-
tap it in with like what you're doing with the shows. I think that's super awesome, man.
How much does like a Michael Jackson rookie card, perfect condition?
Michael Jackson
Michael
rookie
Jackson.
card.
Michael Jordan.
Priceless.
Michael Jordan. The card is. The card is. The card has moved so much. So last year, PSA 10s were selling somewhere around 950,000. I think was the highest one I saw sold. More recently, I think they're back down around the 250K range.
So if I had one of those cards and straight folded in half, what would that be worth?
It'd probably go down to a PSA 1. I would think at that point. They might give you a 2. Just depends on how great they're feeling that day. You never know. If they give you a 2, it would probably put you down to like 3 or 4 grand.
Okay. So still some value, but
Yeah. Yeah.
Some dude would still pay you something for it, but if it's that ridiculously valuable.
The craziest thing I did. So like I said, I don't get very high end cards anymore. I used to have a bunch years before, but now no. So the Saturday of the National show in Chicago at the Rosemont, I went and bought a box from Meyer. I got a card out of their soccer player. The card was serial number out of 50. So I took the card into the Nationals, like one of the big rookie soccer players. I paid $250 to have it graded. I figured, okay, if it comes back a 9, you never think of a 10, you always think of a 9.
Mm-hmm.
10s are hard. If you think you're going to get 10s all the time, you're going to
You're gonna
shit a lot of money away.
same thing with girls.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Settle with the 9.
Perfect
Take
logic.
the 9.
Perfect
You know,
logic.
if the 10's there,
If you get a 9, be happy.
You
If
get
you
a
get a
10.
10, you're even more happy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
And get 9s and 10s at the same time.
yeah. If you can. So I took this card in. I paid $250 to have it graded on site. Actually came back a PSA 10. I struck luck. I sold the card that day for $2,800. So if you think about it, $25 to $250 in the investment for the grading. Even if it would have came back a 9, and I was $250 in, I think I still would have sold that card for like $800. So I was like, I'm like, hey, I'm good either way, right?
Mm-hmm.
9 or 10, I'm good either way. Came back at 10, I punished it.
Yeah, when you find yourself at a point where the grading is you're certain the grading is going to add value to it, that's cool as fuck.
So like
I
that's
guess where you could get fucked is if you get some bogus ass shit though.
if your grading comes back terrible. So like the
Like
investment,
if you go to Myers and buy a pack of Yu-Gi-Oh cards or something,
you get lucky.
It's pretty fucking real, you know.
It could happen, but you could also buy a shit ton of them and
And
get
just get ass
dog
out.
shit. Right.
Or maybe you hold them and then they become valuable over time. Who knows?
How many people? I can say this. I know 2 people that I've known my entire life that held on to their Pokemon cards from back in the day.
Again.
So you still have them, but there's a lot of people who were just like, Mom said they gotta go. I need space in the room, and they're gone. I did the same things with my sports cards when I was a kid. You know, my mom was like, they gotta go. And there's probably so much money my mom threw away.
Yeah. Never forgive her for that.
Yeah, I mean, I love my mom, but
Dude,
you know,
I
it's
should have
like,
bought my fucking Pokemon cards, bro.
there's tons of. So here's the thing: is like, again, you can sell cards. You can, when you grade cards, that's where your money is. You can still sell cards now and make money.
That's crazy, dude. Would you list that as like an asset? You were
Pokemon
like, going
collection?
for like
No joke. There's
it's
guys
like-
that insure their houses with their
you, like,
collection.
yeah, like as a collateral, more or less.
Like I wish I could probably show you.
Go to the bank for a loan. Sick cards.
with a book of Pokemon cards.
Yeah.
There's a
How
guy.
much can I get for this?
There's
I know
a,
what you
This is
would
my
like.
down payment.
Where's your supervisor?
there's a guy. So this guy right here. He does a lot. I mean, there's a ton of stuff.
This is getting my mind racing, dude. I love this stuff.
Uh-huh.
So the investment side of things, this is where this is huge. And I was telling you, like if you have the money to go in, and you can control what you're going to buy, and then how much is on the back end. So a lot of these guys, they want to buy 50-60% of what things are worth, and what they'll do is they'll come in with cash. And they set hard cash on the table, and they say, "We're good. We got a deal." I mean, how many people are literally going to look at $15K and go, "Yeah, we're not there."
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes there's guys that'll split hairs over $200-300, and I'm like, just take the money.
Right,
Like
right.
we're trying
right,
to force
right.
it. Like take the money and go.
When I think I agree with you. When something that seemingly has minimal value skyrockets like that, don't get too stingy about it.
Yeah.
Take the money that's there now.
So here's this guy
Keep the
bought.
cash flow. Like that's why it's
Yeah.
a good idea with I like your angle with the inexpensive cards so that anybody can come through and
Yeah,
spend $20 and get some really cool shit.
you hold on to it for a couple
It's
years.
shit, dude. Yeah, dude might have a good season, whatever it is.
So this Kobe Bryant card right here, this guy he bought that card for $5,000. Right now he has it valued at $22,000.
That's sick.
He's like that's what I do, and he's
It's
like.
only going to increase
And
probably.
we're talking. I mean, these are like multiple cards, and this is what I was talking
So,
about
like,
grading.
Did Kobe's cards go crazy after he passed away?
Yep. So a lot of this stuff. I mean, we're talking probably $50K worth of cards right here, and this is what he does every single weekend. And so they go around, and the good news is that they can sell money. So when they take the profits, they're not using like hard money from their accounts anymore. They're using profits from what they're selling.
Mm-hmm.
And everything becomes liquid at that point. It's just
How,
and it's flip. And next thing you know, they're sitting on $500K worth of cards, and it's nuts.
I mean,
It's huge.
it's a lot of cash too. It sounds like, which is
You were talking with sports figures, the better they do, the worse they do affects
Mm-hmm.
the value. How does value change with like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon?
That's an awesome question because they don't get hurt.
Yeah. They're just out there doing their thing.
Different sets change. So this is going to sound weird, but like some sets become more popular than others. And like if people are like, "Oh, this one particular set is getting too much attention, and I think this one should have it," versus this one, people will gravitate, and so that's where like the markets on Pokemon will shift sometimes. Where it's not like they're like Charizard first
general,
edition; those are like
what's kind of the value? Like what has value? If you get a pack of Yu-Gi-Oh cards now, most of them ain't worth shit.
Wish I
And then
knew.
Once in a while, you get like a pop rocket.
Well,
Are there just a few good ones in like each set that you're kind of talking about?
even on
nowadays?
some of the new stuff, so like believe it or not, like Charizard's obviously still popular.
Yeah, they
He's-
like just have a different set of
Yeah.
them, and it's not worth shit now.
So a
But
buddy of
it's still
mine-
Charizard.
A buddy of mine was opening up boxes. They were like $55. If you got the one special Charizard out of there, it was selling at one point for like $700 ungraded. So I mean, it's still a
okay.
huge. That's a
yeah,
big upgrade.
And then I'm sure graded it could get
That's when they
maybe
just were
5
going
or something.
stupid money.
10, something silly.
Yep. They go. I mean, some of them I think PSA 10s were like $3K out of a $55 box. Like that's where we were talking. Like you got to invest the money in grading to get it. Otherwise, your margins are still good from 55 to 700 raw.
Right.
I mean,
so like
me, I would have
say
been
in my
like,
example,
give me that 700. I'm out. I don't want
Yeah.
to take the risk of sending it off. And if it, that's the thing is like if it comes back at 9, it might only be worth 800.
Mm.
You know, so it's like, damn, I just spent $250 to.
You can be down a few bucks.
Yeah. So that's where it's kind of like that, the gamble. That's where I said like all of this with sports cards and stuff right now is like it's a huge gamble. So there's fantasy football, like fantasy sports gambling, all that stuff is like increased, and so it drives more money to cards.
and it's gonna keep going nuts. Yeah.
So everything is like this whole conglomerate of like, I follow this team, I bet on this team, and now I'm investing in this player. And like people do that stuff where
Straight up.
they're like, oh, I like whoever from that team.
Yeah, dude. Like if
And
you
they
knew, if you happen to know somebody in the NFL, like that'd be awesome. And it'd be like, yeah, dude, let me buy a fucking card of this guy.
So
You
James
know,
Robinson
that's cool.
is from Rockford. He's an NFL running back. We can't even get like a lot of the cards that come into the show with James Robinson, like they just sell. People buy them.
Yeah,
They want to have that
that's cool, man.
that factor of I may know him. Fred Van
Right.
Vliet was another one for
Oh,
basketball, and they were
Shit.
like, and it was like, okay, like we're trying to get them out to a show. We want them to come sign autographs.
That would
But
be so
you get
cool.
to a certain point, I think it's kind of hard though, right? I mean, we can't be like, hey, come back to Rockford and sign autographs.
Yeah, you'd have to pay them. Probably.
They want money.
Yeah.
Yeah, they want money, and I get it.
It could
but-
be there though. It could be there. You know, that could be that thing. You toss him whatever for the show, and
Yeah.
shit, the crowd comes through, and
So
that's
we've-
marketing.
We've looked at all these different factors of like what we could do to try to like move crowds, like I said, going back to like analytics and the algorithm and everything. So we didn't initially advertise for our show at all. When we started using Facebook advertising, like things just went bananas.
I bet.
Like,
That's
crowds
why.
went
That's why I
bananas.
asked you early because I thought that shit works. First and
Yes.
foremost, if you got any sort of decent online video or
Yep.
even just ad, that's money well spent because it'll put it into like the eyes of people that pretty much like your friends know but you don't know.
It's hardcore. I didn't think it was that in depth.
It's
And, like,
good.
Like
What
when you can
like? How much
target.
do you throw at marketing? On
So I think
Facebook?
we
You
were
can get away
between-
with like $50 and some cheap amount and
We're
reach
like between $200 and
tens of
$300.
thousands of people.
$200 and $300 a month.
That's super reasonable, man.
So the funny thing is, like when we were doing it, like I felt guilty, like with these target zones and like what you can do, like it's
yeah,
like,
because you
target
can
men between 25
do, you
and
can do
40.
like all ages with
Oh,
trading cards, which is awesome.
They had all these keywords, so like you could literally go in and like, let's say you were into like cornhole, like you could pick cornhole and like if you're like, hey, I look at cornhole videos and like I like the game of cornhole, they literally will just blast your Facebook with all this advertising of like we're attached to cornhole. Like it was absolutely insane. So like they did all these demographics for like men and women to age groups to certain things that you're into. So we did football, baseball, basketball, soccer, you name it, whatever related to sports. We were like we're just gonna pick those things. We were like we're gonna pick ages between this and this. We're gonna go after it. And then like what's weird is like, and I always felt goofy about this because I was like, we're kind of leaving women out of this. And like most moms are like, hey, I'll take my kids to a card show.
Yeah, because that's like a super family friendly thing, Like anybody can appreciate a trading card.
The Facebook algorithm was going against it. Believe it or not, they were like, don't target women, and we were like,
Don't target women.
Yeah, we were like,
That's
this is
not
kind of
Target.
nuts. So we started like, we were like, you know what? We're gonna play around one week. So we split the weeks. You can split them up. Like any way you advertise, you can do like different demographics all the time. You can change that. So we were like, okay, for 1 week we're gonna do men. 1 week we're gonna see what happens. Like we're gonna see if women really respond to this advertisement. More women actually responded to the advertisement than men. Yeah, because guys were just like, oh, I'm gonna look at it, but I'm gonna keep moving through. I'm not gonna click and look at it. We had like a legitimate group of women who were like tagging, like it was like grandma tagging little Jimmy, her grandson, like, oh look, Jimmy card show, you know? And we're like,
That's
oh,
so
shit.
that's so
Yeah.
cool, man.
Dude, it's nuts. So that algorithm is insane. Like my buddy actually does it for us. So he runs all the advertisement part of our show. And like when he was doing the breakdown to me, I was like, this is wild, man. I'm like, and it's scary because like if you think about it, like you're sitting at home and you say something about anything, I don't know, you like kitchen utensil, and then you're scrolling through Facebook and all of a sudden they start showing you advertisements for kitchen utensils,
They're
right?
listening.
And you're like,
These
why are
things
they
are-
listening to
Like
me?
you said, that microphone is really fucking
It's
good on the
yes,
phones,
yes.
man.
So the algorithm pulls into that stuff. So like no joke, if you go look on your phone right now, you might even get an advertisement for something for sports
Just
cards.
a trade. Yeah,
Or
dude.
Pokemon.
I
Yeah, your
guarantee
your
it, dude.
sponsored post pop up.
Yeah, no joke. That's why I'm like, this is crazy. So we spent that money wisely. We were like, we got to
Sounds
do it,
like it.
and it helped crowds like huge. Like, and again, as we started growing, we were like, okay, we had vendors, and that vendors wasn't the problem. So we were like, how can we get on more people? We started looking at, obviously location, what time frames we had, what
Dude,
are
I
we doing.
love it because it's like such a low risk. Like technically,
It's
if you wanted to be a business like flipping trading cards or
Yeah,
something like.
I legit would quit my full time
How
job.
dangerous is a trading card? You know what I mean? Like
I know some guys that are making like $100,000 a year doing cards.
that's awesome. Dude.
Yeah, talk about
And it's
the
still working.
talk about that kid that you were saying that's always rolling with stacks, and then at one of your shows, I think, bought something and flipped it.
Yeah, he bought a card. He came in. He's like 19 years old. He bought a card for like $10K. He took it over the other side of the room and sold it for $12K like in a second.
He's just
made
got
$2,000.
hot hands. He's got the right.
Yeah.
He knows how to sell it. He knows what he's looking at. So that's another
But
thing.
that's
I
the
was gonna
thing.
ask.
Like when I was telling you guys, when you come in and you just drop cash on the table, and people go, "Ooh, like should I sell that, or you like do I sell it at 10 or do I sell it at 12 because the cash is in front of me?"
Right.
And
You
that
could be
guy was
asking
like,
12.
"Yeah." And he literally walked across the room. and Was like, "Hey, I got this. You want to pay?" And he was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Cool."
Yeah,
I was like,
I'd be a little upset about that, but shit.
they both made money. That's the wild thing is like everybody in this
Yeah,
business.
I don't think he was upset going home with 10 bands. you know?
Yeah. Well, like I was telling you before, there's the guy who I sold that $2,800 card to, right? I was only in $275 to that card. I sold for $2,800. He's going to take that $2,800 card. He's going to find a specific buyer for it that probably was going to pay $5,000 for it.
Yeah.
So everybody down the line makes money
That's it.
if you're
That's
you're
good.
smart about it.
Right.
Like you could lose your ass too.
Oh, yeah.
But a lot of it is just keep moving, like always try to like move up. Like for me in my collection, what I try to do for my shows, like I said, I stay low. I always keep the kid in mind. Like I wanna make sure- yeah, like keep it going.
Yeah.
Like I want to get kids involved so they keep it going.
Yeah.
No
That's-
offense, Curtis, no NFTs, but real cards.
Hey, that's fair. I still think that's really cool, man. Like I identify with that big time. I had cards.
Yeah.
That's one of the few things that I can get behind. With kid stuff or like
What's
be
crazy?
interested in getting into their hands even.
Yeah.
You know?
And you would be shocked. Like we get these little kids that come in, like 8, 9, 10 years old. They know what they're doing.
I bet.
They're working the room. They're making deals. There's a kid that walked up to me, legit, this last show we had. This kid walked up to me. He's like, "Hey, are you buying cards?" I was like, "Not really, but I'll take a look." And I'm going through his bin, and I'm like, "Mom and Dad have dropped some coin into this kid's collection here. I mean, first couple cards were like 1,000 a piece." I was like, "Dude, what are you doing with these?" And he's like, "I make trades and do all kinds of stuff." And then he was looking at some stuff I had, and he's like, I'll offer you this, and I'll throw this in on a trade." And I'm like, these kids are like businessmen. Like they're
That's
learning,
great. That's
but they're
a brilliant.
they're learning business
Children,
at like a super young age from sports cards and Pokemon and stuff. And it's like, wow.
That's smart, dude.
They come
Smart
in,
as fuck.
these kids are intelligent, like super intelligent, but they know how to work a room too.
Yeah, and they're still kids,
Yeah.
so they know that they have that draw if they're really truly intelligent.
They
And
will-
emotionally intelligent enough to know, like, you weren't expecting him to bust out no fucking whatever it was, $1,000 card collection.
He probably had 10 grand in his collection, and I was like, holy shit, dude. He was like 9 years old. I'm like, what?
And what is his parents were just kind of there, like,
No, they weren't even there. It was
no?
So they
That's
carry
wild.
around these hard cases. They're like almost like a gun case. There's like a protective thing inside, and they have cards. They're just
Sleeved out.
they open this briefcase.
You're wearing a suit and tie?
Yeah, so I'm like, man,
Shine shoes.
these kids are nuts. So like, this kid comes in, he's like, hey, I want to, I'm here to make deals. I'm here to sell some stuff. And I'm like, dude, this is awesome. That's crazy. Like, you got better shit than I got. And I'm years in. So it's crazy to see it. And like, again, if mom and dad put that into his collection, he may have started with $1,000 card, and now he has 10.
Yeah, straight up, dude. You just
Never know. That's why I'm like, for anybody that wants to invest in cards, this is my suggestion, is don't run in with a pocket full of money and think that you're going to take, $15K and instantly turn it into 30. Like,
right.
you got to be strategic. You have to think, and this is where, like, again, non-sports is like safe. There's not a whole lot of ups and downs with that because
That's what would fuck
it's
me up
too
in
safe.
sports. Is
Yeah.
Tracking the athletes and deciding when is the best time to sell.
Sports is the gamble, and again, anytime anybody can get hurt. But here's the thing: like, if I'm giving advice and I'm telling somebody to invest your money, you're going to invest in the goats. People who have already done it, they've already had careers, or they're at the ass end of their career.
Yeah, like
Tom
LeBron James.
LeBron
Tom
James.
Brady.
Yeah, Michael Jordan's already been done. Those are
It's more
guys
of
that
a
are
gamble
safe.
going with like Patrick Mahomes or something
Yeah.
like that, because it's like, yeah, let's be honest, he fumbled it last year, and who knows, he might just ass out. Like, I doubt it. But
He could get obliterated
He could.
tomorrow.
So, absolutely.
They played Thursday, but next
But I'm
week,
I'm sure with all of his hype, his shit was going crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
I've seen cards as high as $100,000 for him, even higher.
yeah.
But
Straight up.
that's the thing, and like, for me, I'm always looking, like, from my investment standpoint, is I want to buy low, sell high. And I want to buy guys who I know are legit.
So do you pick up like rookie cards ever and like
Yep.
hold them for
You
like
can
a
do
while?
that.
Or
There-
maybe not necessarily rookie, but newish player that you think's gonna get hot but is undervalued now.
That's what a lot of guys do, is they do like speculation. So it's the same thing, stock market, right? You take the same logic and use it in sports cards. So
Who's gonna pop off?
who's going to pop off? Who's going to be the guy who steps in and
Increases
is the
the
guy?
value of
Yeah.
his own merch that's made.
So there's people who are buying $1, $2 cards right now in hopes that next year that guy gets a chance, and then he plays and his cards go up, and then they're going to grade that card from there, which is going to go up even further, and that's what they do. So a lot of guys, they try to do it in off seasons, is they'll grade shit from last year in hopes that this year they hit. And so there's a lot of guys who used to put in a lot of money to they were just
Flip
sitting
on
on
the
piles of stuff just waiting. They're just like, oh, I want this dude to
That's-
hurry up and come in. And they'll spend money, they'll lose money.
Yeah.
They'll lose money on dudes that don't make it.
Yeah. Flop and then you sell it for a loss or whatever.
But
and
if
put
they
your cash
hit-
flow. Right. And if you can, it's all about hitting more than you miss. Just like
So
stocks or portfolios.
you
crypto,
don't really need to know players. You don't need to know players. I mean, you do, but you don't. Like, if you do a small, minimal research of, like, who's popular in sports, what's going to happen in the future is guys that are trendy, Twitter, Instagram,
Yeah.
huge followings.
Yeah, dudes that can sell are probably gonna boost their
Yep.
value.
So especially with like NFTs and stuff like that, anything that's going in that direction, because those guys are going to have the newer, younger generation following that stuff, and they're going to want to buy it.
Yeah, yeah.
And like LaMelo Ball in basketball is like a big one. He's got like, I don't know how many followers on Instagram or Twitter or whatever. It's a stupid number of kids that follow him. He comes out with an NFT of him literally throwing a pass from here to the desk, and it sells for $6,000.
That's cool.
It's a 5-second clip, and it sold for $6,000. That's where the market's heading.
Yeah.
Like those guys have a
The
following. They have people that are
touchdown pass
involved.
of a lifetime or whatever it is. You
It's
know, the
so
big
good.
moments
What,
captured.
what's the advantage? This is not along the same vein, but I was thinking, what's the advantage of a card show versus selling online besides meeting people?
Transit, you don't have to worry about. You take the shipping out of the equation,
Shipping,
especially when you're
taxes.
talking high dollar value items.
How big is the online market of trading
eBay's
cards?
eBay's huge. There's a couple different applications that are out there. There's I couldn't tell you the names offhand. You know what it's called, like Whatnot, I think is one of them. There's another one that they do like online auctions. They're like online auction houses. eBay's the biggest hub though. Problem with eBay is you lose 12% fees right off the bat. Then you got shipping and packaging
It's
and
good for eyes, but maybe if you could get them to a different platform.
yeah. So the shows is nice because like what we try to do, and I know a lot of these guys that set up, and everybody has their own little way of doing things. For me personally, like I list things a little bit under eBay comps, like what sells, because I know people are gonna try to make money. They want to make money. I'm gonna make money, but I'm gonna, like, again, if I'm opening boxes and packs, I'm getting them for pennies. I don't have to go kill somebody and hit somebody over the head to get $20 out of them. If I get 15, cool.
That's cash flow, baby.
And then you make 5, cool. Like everybody
Is
wins.
that how you're deciding your value? Is looking it up on eBay?
Yeah. So there's a company called 130 Point. So they do all transactions at eBay sales, and then that's what people use for comps. So it's like you can do it for anything. Like
Yeah. Every card is on there you've ever looked up.
every sale of card. So it has to be an actual sale.
But you've never had a card where it's like there's not an existing sale. Like
There can be. So a lot of stuff that, like they do, like I said, they do serial print runs. So if they have a 1-of-1, you have that only card. Unless you bought it off eBay, there's no comp.
You like make up a value.
You
more
just,
or
yeah.
less.
So a lot of people try to judge that market based on like a similar comp if they can.
Yeah, like a comparable player.
Yep. Or
Comparable
card.
performance.
Mhm.
Sure.
So it's
A comparable one-on-one.
it's wishy-washy, but the good thing, and again, like I said, if I could do this full time, I'd do it tomorrow. Like 100%, I know that I can make a ton of money doing it if I really want to sit down and do it.
Sounds
I
like
mean,
it,
you're
man.
on your way to doing that. It sounds like
I wish.
between the show and your own table, like
My,
you got it going on.
I mean, the promotion side of the show is great. The show's doing great. We've had good crowds. It's growing. I don't want it to grow too big. I don't want it to get too crazy because it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah,
Like trying to get money
It's a lot
in,
of
set
work.
everybody up.
Honestly, it sounds like you should charge more per table.
We thought about it, but I hate to. I think it's always easier to come down than go up.
Yeah. People are gonna be. Some people are gonna be unhappy.
Yeah,
But
even
also,
if it's $5, like people like kind of flip out about that.
But
It's
also,
like,
you have that waiting list, so like they don't want to do it. You know, if they're making thousands of dollars at the show and they're bitching about $5-10.
Yeah, my buddy Mike's gonna love that comment because he says the same thing. But, I mean, that, I get it. I think in some ways, you want people. I mean, we want to be fair, and that's like when we were talking about this next year. When we were like, okay, January going forward, because of the demand, do we go up? And I mean, inflation hit everybody, so our costs have gone up anyways.
That's how the shit works, man. Sometimes you gotta do that. We've had to raise prices on our customers and probably lost a couple, but
Yeah.
like, that's what you gotta do.
Yeah, especially with as crazy as it's been.
But do you gain them? Do you gain more back?
I would say so, yeah.
So that's the thing is that, like, from a business standpoint, that's the one thing that kind of hit us in a weird way because we weren't really anticipating being this popular. You know, we were like, fuck, you know, maybe we'll get 50 tables and cool, like we'll have a fun show. And then all of a sudden it just went like, and like literally my phone goes nuts every day. It's like, hey, can I get in the show? Can you put me down? Can you put me on the wait list? And I'm like, I'd love to get you a spot. I can't. Like, I don't have any space to go. And then, like, you tell the guys that are there now.
With the demand as strong as that, though, it's like, man, I agree with Marco. I think you gotta make a little more off of it, or just
Can you say how
tap
much you
into it,
charge per
whatever
table?
that means.
So we charge, so for an 8-foot table, it's $40. And we do a discount on multiples. So if you get 2 8-footers, it's $75. It's a $5 discount.
They bring their own tables.
Nope, we supply them. And if you get 3, it's $100. And then we've only had one person get more than 3 8-footers. That was one time. I think we charged them $120. It was still a discount. 6-footers, we do 1 for 30, 2 for 55, and then we do 3 for 80.
What do you think they're making on average per table, like just as a general average?
So, I mean, everybody's different because just depends on what they sell.
$1,000 a show.
Some people, yeah. And that's the thing. I think if people really broke it down to, okay, I made $1,000 today. Is it really? Am I going to throw a fit over $5?
Right.
You know, I get that logic, and that's where to me it's like.
It sounds like you're running the event in a way that is worthy of just asking a few more bucks. Perhaps. Yeah. But
we've tussled with this. It's a legit question. I think it's one of those things where, like for us, that's where we were. You know, when we were looking at some of this, and we were like, okay, what do we do? You know, from this point, if we went up $5, even if we went up $5, does that make a difference? I don't know. I think some people at the end of the day, because we talked about even doing a table restriction, like, you know, you can only get 2 tables versus 3, right? Mm-hmm. Let's
bring more heads in and more value to the customers, and then in turn more customers for the next one.
That's where it came back as, you know, hey, why do we have so many dealers? Mm-hmm. I don't want that competition. Mm-hmm. It's like, who cares? The more people that are here, the more people that come to the show.
Right, and then you can all sell more.
Another thing you could do is like add a value and then raise the price. Like, so just as a pure example, we're providing tablecloths now, and the tablecloths costs you, you know, $5 a piece, and you're charging $10 more. You're still making more, increasing your price, but there's a value add. You know what I mean?
Or, you know, everybody that comes to the show gets like a little memorabilia bag or whatever.
Water bottles.
So we're doing it up a little more.
I didn't even mention this, so we were talking about kids for a minute. Speaking of which, yeah. So we do a free break for kids every show. So what we do is we get retail boxes, and then we open them up and we give the cards away to kids for free.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
A lot of parents, not so much now, but last year, they couldn't get anything. Like I was saying, we were waiting in line. As soon as stuff came in, if you weren't the first 8 people in line, you weren't getting anything. Sometimes people were the first person in line to take everything and just tell everybody to screw off, and then there was like almost fist fight. But parents were kind of pissed because they were like, hey, we want stuff for our kids. So when we started doing this, and I was telling my buddy, I'm like, look, man, I want to open these cards for kids and like get them in and get the parents involved and show them that, you know, not everybody's a douchebag taking everything off the shelves. We're gonna buy stuff off the shelves, but we're gonna give it back to kids. We started doing that. It's a lot of fun. Last show we had like 17 kids, I think. So we opened up like 5 boxes of cards for them, and like some of the parents come up and they're like, "Dude, this is so awesome! Thank you for doing that. This is really cool." And we get some really nice comments from it, but the kids are what cracks me up, man. Like they could care less about like who actually they get in these boxes. They could care less.
Yeah.
They're just a kid. They're just like,
happen to be there.
Yeah, you know, they're like, this is so awesome. So like cards, like we would probably think are like, oh, these are just, you know, junk cards. They're just gonna sit in a box, never gonna go anywhere. And these kids like, they actually get excited about it. And they're like, oh, that's from the Chicago Bears, and they're like, yeah, mom, you know, and you're like, all right.
That's really cool, man. You're making memories.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. So we really focused on that. Originally we were talking about like promoting local businesses too. There's a couple card shops, and we were like, hey, you guys get involved. Some of them stepped back. They didn't want anything to do with it. And we were like, okay, that's going to be your choice. I mean, we're giving you free promotion. We're going to talk about your shop. We're going to talk, you know, we're going to drive.
Yeah, we're not doing this to hurt you, bro.
Some people took it that way, and that's fine. So we were like, hey, we're just going to do this. So a buddy of mine runs a shop down in Sycamore, and we've shouted him out several times. We were like, hey, you know, go here, go there. He's picked up business. He's come in and spent money to like reciprocate, and that's how it works. So we're like, awesome. Everybody helps each other, guys. Like it's not all in it. Like there's a lot of egos in this shit, and there's guys who will like because you don't have certain collections or certain cards in your collection, like you're not, you know, and they'll like treat you like that. They're like, you know, I got this and I got that. And it's like, who gives a shit? You go home and jack off to your LeBron James rookie cards. I don't care. Yeah, I mean, that's right. I don't get into that stuff. So for me, it's like, what can I do to add value to people in the hobby? How give them deals, get the kids involved,
Facilitating value.
get the and I'm always trying to move that versus anything else. And eventually, I'm going to get to the point where I build on my collection and invest.
Getting Fred or something
Would be huge.
Huge. Yeah, you would need a bigger space.
Yeah,
Huge.
you damn near need the fucking Metro Center.
Yeah.
That would be insane. Oh my God.
It's like feasible, dude. It honestly could be.
Downtown
Something
scares me
crazy.
though.
Yeah, no, I ain't
Especially
saying
with that
I'm
kind of
not
money
saying that
floating
that's
around.
like the move, but
I got nervous. I'm not joking, man. Like the first couple of shows we did at Forest Hills, we actually had like real security.
yeah, I don't
And I
blame
was
you,
like,
man.
in Rockford gets a bad name for itself to begin with,
Mm-hmm.
and so a lot of the dealers that come in, they're like, we're gonna be okay. And I'm like, yeah, you're fine. Like, not in a bad part of town. You don't have to, nobody's worrying about this
Yeah,
stuff.
and at least you don't have to like ID people or something with a security team in that situation. They're just there in case some shit goes down.
A lot of people found peace of mind in it, but in the end, it was like, look, we didn't have enough people like coming in and spending.
Tens of bands.
No.
Type shit.
And again, it's occasional that you get people that come in and spend that type of money. It's not like it's
Right, yeah.
consistent. People will come in, they'll drop $100, $200, and then they're out.
Yeah.
That's like 95 to 96% of your show.
Most of those people are collectors, not
Yeah.
investors.
No, a lot of people are collectors. Yes and no, half and half.
Mm.
Most people will come in and try to look for small deals.
Yeah,
Again,
it's
they're
like
buying smaller cards to
something
flip.
they want that they think will go up in value in
But
the same breath.
I'll put it in this way. Like let's say Curtis wants to come in and he wants to sell on eBay. He's got all the time in the world to sit down, list stuff out, ship it, deal with it. He may go through the room and buy a boatload of cards, and then
Yeah.
turn around and try to take his time to sell them. And he'll make a boatload of money. I got a case of cards right now that I could sell for probably like $3,000 if I really sat down and took the time to do it. But I don't have time. I don't want to do it. So I'll sit and sell them at a show. When they sell, they sell. When they don't, they don't. But if he was like, hey, I can make money on this, I'll give him a deal because I'm like,
Move it.
yeah, I'm going to get rid of it. I've already made my money off cards, so you get rid of what you want to take the time to do, go ahead. And so we'll get people that come in that do that. It's just because they have the time and I don't. But that's where I said, like for me, I want to move from doing that lower end stuff to just, I want to sell one big card.
Mm-hmm.
Where like if I'm in 15K and I sell it for 20,
calculated decisions on
Yes.
bigger and less transactions.
that's my end goal is to start moving up the chain. But again,
And you're in the right place to do it. Like
Yep.
you're meeting all the right people.
Yep.
we've made a ton of connections. A lot of guys that are heavily connected. Like I said, there's two of the guys that are probably the biggest card buyers in the Midwest. Frequent our show and we talk all the time on Instagram and
But people
Facebook and
know.
stuff. Yeah. So it's like if we run into something that, like if you fumbled across a card that you didn't know you had, and then you're like, oh shit, I need to sell this, but it's a really big card. We could call one of those guys and say, hey, you want to come take a look at this and try to work out a deal. Like we know the people who.
Yeah, and it's worth their time to do it.
Yeah. So I mean, we wouldn't waste their time like saying, oh hey, here's $100 card. Do you want to come to?
Yeah,
Rockford
no,
and
but
do
if you got a $10,000+
Yeah.
card or some crazy shit, you
Yeah.
know,
Like
it's
they would-
totally worth having them come through and check it out
Yep.
and see if they can
100%. So
squeeze
there's
a few bucks on it too or whatever.
there's probably 10 people that we know like that at a drop of a hat. Like if we call them, I show up with like 20K. It's just fool around money. It's crazy.
That is
But
money.
it's all tied in. Like I said, it's all tied into one big network between sports betting, fantasy football, that type of
Crazy amount of
stuff.
money.
So,
Shit, man. Every
You
angle.
said earlier that like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh stuff is safe, but what do you
Yeah.
like? Do you think it's gonna really go up significantly in value from this point, or do you think this is an ideal time to sell?
They always, well, it always has room for growth. I think the further along it goes, obviously, the more rare it becomes.
Yeah.
But like I said, the wild thing with some of the non-trading sports cars is more of like sets and what's popular. So Pokemon has like, I don't even know, like 25, 26 different sets from 1999 to today or whatever it is. It could be more. I don't.
Yeah, something like that.
Not that expert, but there's like certain sets where like groups of people will get together that actually play the game, and then they're like, I really liked this set because it was fun. The cards were fun. The art was better. Maybe the art was underappreciated, and so like they get into like these weird, quirky worlds where it's kind of like what's niche, and so that's the thing for like Pokemon. It got super popular, and then the prices went bananas.
Yeah.
And then it came back to a normal market, which was good. It needed to be normalized.
But I would love to be selling bananas.
Yeah, if you had that opportunity, you could have made a lot of money on first edition stuff. But
I probably have a decent amount of first edition stuff that's not in the greatest of shape.
Yeah, mine's all in terrible shape. We were playing on like the gravel road.
You said the rubber band shit earlier, and I cringed a little bit because I know his brother has stacks of cards like that. I just got a couple books.
There's, believe it or not, this guy that runs a shop over here in Loves Park, he made a comment that he would rather buy a PSA 1 Charizard versus a PSA 10. And I was like, what? And like the 10 is worth $500K. Why would you want the 1? And he was like, because that card's been played with. I know it's been played with, so it means more to me than an unplayed with card.
Interesting perspective from a business owner.
Yeah, well, I get his logic, right? Where like it's like, oh, you can feel that connection to somebody playing the game and having an appreciation for it versus
like there's a certain appeal to a set of used playing cards. It's cool. Like you definitely could tell that we fucked around with them played Pokemon.
But it was kind of interesting that he said that, and I was like, that's crazy, man. It wasn't about money value. It was about the connection to the game.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I get it. But I would never
Yeah.
All day I would have been like, give me the PSA 10, please. I'll take my $500K and walk away.
Oh, sure. If it's one or the other and they're both the same price, then I'm paying.
I wouldn't even, matter of fact, if somebody would have told me like I could have the $500K and walk away from doing cards altogether, I would have taken the $500K.
I guess another... having simply have heard that statement individually, my line of thought might have went to the point of like maybe he thinks the PSAs are more readily available now and undervalued. But that I totally get that his sense of value is that they were actually
people did oversend cards for grading. When you do that, so when all these cards come back, they devalue. That's the other thing too, is like Pokemon, everybody was like flooding. It was huge.
And that would have been the time to sell,
Yeah.
probably, with all that ridiculous pandemonium.
It was cheaper to send that stuff in than sports cards. And so that's what made it even more of a deal. Is like people were like let me get these graded. They're huge returns in them. Some of the stuff on first edition was coming back. I mean, you couldn't find some of those cards for less than $50 raw. At one point, they were nuts.
So, with my collection, do you think it would be wise to start, like, maybe even just getting a booth at a show and, like, looking up the values of some and trying to get rid of some?
You gotta have, like, 10 cards. In good shape.
I don't know.
I thought you were saying 10 cards overall. I'm like, you probably don't need a table at that point.
No, I got, like, at least a book of well-maintained Pokemon cards. At least.
So, what I would suggest is just go on to 130 Point, which is 130point.com. You're going to look up that particular card, whichever ones you have, and then from there, you're going to get an idea of what they sell for. You're going to take like the last 5 solds, which should be within the last 90 days. So that'll kind of give you a price range. Here's where I need to be at. Now, if you want to look and see what the graded ones sell for, I would use PSA in your search option. So then you're going to look at PSA Venusaur or whoever you have. You're going to look up PSA Venusaur and then whatever set that is. And then see what those returns are. And again, you're just going to comp the same way.
Yeah.
Last 90 days. That way, if you think like, hey, these look like they're in pretty good condition, should I send them in? Or like, we're sending it.
Yeah.
Or they're not.
I mean, what, maybe get like a 7 or something and still increase value or something like that, maybe?
You could lose money.
Yeah.
It depends. You got to research that.
Right.
I mean, if it makes sense.
Yeah, if it's like $250 and I'm shooting for a 7 that's gonna put it up to $1,000, yeah, that's probably a shot I would shoot.
So they just dropped their pricing down to $75 a card. It was at $250 for a long time. They're still a year out. So you can send it for $75 and then a year from now you get it back. Might be faster by then, but I'm gonna say a year.
Yeah, I always plan on a worst case.
But at that point, are you losing? If you have the card in your possession from years and years and years ago, you're really only into it now for $75.
Right.
So if you PSA 7 and a PSA 7 sells for $200, you just gained $125. Was it worth it to send it in at that point?
Probably.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't doing anything
But sitting around.
super valuable to me.
That's what I'm saying. Like most people who sat around on this stuff.
How much do you do a lot of raw cards? Like just go for like $5-10, like from
Yeah,
a
it
lot of
depends.
early shit.
Some of the original stuff can. I mean, like I said, at one point they were like
You couldn't buy a card in a
They were
set
stupid
for under
nuts.
$50.
Yeah.
First edition.
now they're.
That's when I would have, like, if I could have somehow timed the market like that and tapped in and set up a table and asked no less than fucking $30 for a Pokemon card, I mean, Jesus Christ, that would be fucking absurd.
There's
And you know, at some point during all that hype, there was some people sitting down doing shit like that. Like, I don't.
I'm just gonna pull up a quick eBay search. First edition Pokemon cards.
First edition just means
That's just the first step.
But here's like PSA 9. So this is the jungle set. PSA 9 Cubone. First edition jungle, $19.99, $39. That's a PSA 9. So is it worth sending for $75 when it sells for $39?
Not at that point.
No.
But he's based on, I mean, yeah.
If you would have got them for $10 when the grading was $10 a card, that's a no-brainer. But some of them now are even. There was like 10 cards that sold for like $80. So
there are a lot of people at the shows that don't grade it. They just
yeah, oh yeah. I only have a few in my possession for sports cards, just because when you start to grade, like everything goes up. It's like, do I really want to dump a bunch of money in this, or like again, I've had 2 or 3 times where I've graded stuff and got lucky and sold for huge return. So I only grade stuff that's going to like increase way dramatic, not like
at least a few
a
$100.
smidgen. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I would be the same way. I wouldn't send in a card for.
There's dudes that go around and they try to buy like $15, $20 cards, and they're like, I'm going to send them in and grade them. They're going to come back PSA 10s and I'm going to make $1,000. And they literally waste money.
yeah, you will lose your ass.
Oh, yeah. But there's ways to do this. There's ways to be smart about it. And, you know, the best thing is, like, if you guys come to a show, if you ever come visit a show, just kind of look around and see what people are doing.
Yeah.
You can see in their cases, in their display cases, like, what are cards selling for? I mean, baseball, football, basketball, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, whatever. You can kind of see what things are doing, and then that's where you can go, okay, I got some of those cards at home. Like, should somebody look at them? You know, and people can reach out to us. I mean, we have a website. They can contact me anytime they want. We can look at stuff. We can tell them, give them an honest opinion, like, yeah, it's worth giving a shot, or no. Or if they're just trying to sell it and not deal with it, like, we buy stuff all the time. Always in a constant. We may tell you, no, your stuff sucks, and that offends people sometimes. But we gotta tell people, like, hey, you know, most of your stuff is fire starter, and I can't do anything with it. I'm sorry. I did the same shit with my own collection. I got boxes and boxes and boxes at home that are worthless. I'm waiting for a nice day in the summer next year that I'm gonna start a good fire. It's just what happens. It sucks because you put money into it. Like I said, not every box is a winner. Not, you know. It's a huge. I mean, it's a gamble. That's all it is. It's a big
Mhm.
gamble, and everything is like I said. When you tie this into like stock market theory, it's the same shit.
Like educated gambling.
And it's
Should
Yeah, you get blown
ready
up.
for dinner.
Dude, I think you really covered the grounds, though. I mean, I don't really have any other questions besides like when are you doing your next event?
January 8th.
Oh, that's
Rock
right.
Church.
Yeah.
I'm gonna come over that night.
Are
Show
you-
you my pool skills.
Yeah, dope,
Yeah.
dude. I was just gonna say that.
I used to have my own stick. I told Marco I used to be dangerous with that, but I
Yeah.
let it go a long time ago. It's been a while.
Sure, you still got it.
Yeah.
We used to, man. I played euchre for money. Cards?
Card game.
So I used to play euchre for money. I used to gamble on darts. I gambled on pool. We used to play dice games, like bar dice.
Wow.
We did everything.
10,000
Man.
or something.
I told you we were like, we hustled all the time, man. My whole life has been a hustle. It's crazy. The reason why I got my job right now, believe it or not, the record.
We are. We could snuff it. But
You're gonna have to.
that's where it's at, man. That's not bad at all.
But
dude.
I'm telling you, man, we were doing garage sale flip. We were going around and we were picking up like plush stuffed animals, fucking coffee mugs. I was selling the shit out of coffee mugs, dude.
No shit.
I can't believe how many fucking
Coffee
people
mugs?
used coffee mugs, dude.
What?
You buy them for like a quarter at a garage sale. I was selling for $15-20. Talk about markups.
As new
Fucking
or
coffee
what?
mugs. No, it's used. Dumb people who were just like, hey man, I want that. It's got a dog on it, you know, and they're like, how much? $20? Yeah, cool. I sold the fucking like one of the first edition what the fuck is the coffee place? Yeah. I had like a Christmas Starbucks coffee mug. I sold the bitch. I bought it at the Goodwill for fucking 20 cents. I sold it for $60 on eBay. I was at home fucking touchdown dancing. I was like, no fucking way.
See, you got a good
We
eBay
do.
account, it sounds like.
I
I wanted to do that for a cool minute.
My eBay account's legit. Like for sports cards, I'm 100%.
That's dope as fuck, dude.
And it's hard as hell because like when you, like I said, when you send cards, you don't know what the fuck. You're at the mercy of UPS.
Yes.
It's
I mean,
crazy.
you probably want to send them in like a case, and
Yeah.
you know, you get your method down and whatnot.
But we had, Kyle and I we made $600 in one summer. Like, she wanted to get a job, and I was like, no, don't worry about work. And I'm like, let me show you a different route.
Mm.
You know, so you don't have to put a whole lot of time into. You can just fuck around, do something for fun, and then fucking make some money. Having like she was buying like Calvin Klein used clothes and shit, like name brand clothes. She's buying them from garage sales for like quarter a shirt and selling them for like $20-30 a shirt on eBay. It was clearing out. I was like, fuck, this is crazy. And then that's when my buddy called me and he was like, man, have you checked out sports cards, dude? He's like, it's fucking insane. He's like, some of this shit, like, you're buying it for so low. And that's when boxes were $20 and they were selling for, some of them were selling for $250. And I was like, hook, line, sinker.
I love that easy money, man. Doesn't get better than that.
That's the money where it's like, y'all been making it like that, and I haven't off of doing this shit.
My buddy
This is
had a
crazy.
fucking storage shed. My buddy that runs Cards and Hype in Belvedere. Good dude. He sells a lot of sneakers. He was sneakers first, and then he got into cards. He had an entire fucking storage shed full of product. Sitting on a gold mine. I was like, what the fuck, dude? He's like, just let me know whatever you need, man. I got you. I was like, holy shit, dude, this is crazy.
That's cool.
But he was making...
It's like legal drugs, dude.
Yeah.
Damn near. Like, it doesn't even sound real.
Well, when they shut the shit down in the stores because people were trying to shoot each other over this shit, people created bots. They were buying shit with bots.
Just
So-
as soon as it
yeah.
becomes
Yeah.
available. Just,
They're doing the same shit with shoes. It was like bots.
Mhm.
It was like, and I was like, dude, how the fuck are you still getting all this shit? Like, how? Like, the stores are shut down. And he was like, fuck you, man, I'm still making money. I'm like, God, he paid $5K for a bot. But he was making like sometimes he was picking up shoes for like $130. They were selling for $1K. So he was making tons of money on shoes alone, and then the sports cards were coming on top of it. He was making, in some cases, he bought an entire case, it's 20 boxes. So he was in $400, like his cost. They were selling for $150 a box. So 150 times 20. I was like, fuck.
Let's put a cap on this.
I'm gonna get killed.
John, thanks for coming.
John,
Appreciate
thanks,
you. Good
guys.
talk.
Awesome conversation.
January 8th.
dude.
What's the name of the show?
Northern Illinois Card Show.
We'll plug it.
Find him on
Found by
Facebook.
Rock Church.
Yep.
Harrison Avenue, 6732, 9 to 3.
Kurt will be there selling his Pokemon cards.
Damn well,
His
I
10,
always
His
show
10
up.
Pokemon cards.
I always show up and flex on y'all with the
There you
damn
go.
cards.
Oh, shit.
One last thing. We get a picture for the thumbnail. Curtis? Yeah.
If you guys want, I'm serious, man. If you guys want to fuck around with investing in some stuff, like I can show you.
I'm gonna come through and check it out, like you said. I think I would really like to see.
Like it's no joke. I can show you some shit that you can make some easy, quick money on.
Yeah, or just stuff to look out for. Like I'm all for like
I'm
like you, dude, with the back scratching stuff, dude. If it's easy enough for me to make a couple bucks, cool. And if I can help some other cool people with whatever else, man, like I think it's cool.
The big thing is like I know you were talking about like I want to like invest. Like if you
Yeah.
want to,
I would definitely throw
big money makes big money.